typically what you have on this is going to be for a toe crack, is you're going to have a defect here, and this defect here can oftentimes go way up. So what typically causes it? Well, typically what you have is you have too much pressure on an upright foot. Now you can have it exactly the opposite, where you've got the case of a breakover. You're going to either have them from hooves that are flat like this, or you can have the other extreme where you have a real pointy toe. Either way, with this toe crack being in the middle, what you typically want to end up doing is changing the breakover a little bit to take the torque out of it. So what you can do is just roll this, just a little rocker roll here, so that now the breakover point is behind the toe crack. So your breakover point would be behind the breakover point. That's going to take the mechanic of it pulling it apart, because what it's trying to do is actually separate this here, so that you've got kind of this thing going on.
Right. So it's trying to do this.
Right. Now what you want to make sure that you don't do is don't go blending the quarters in. You kind of want to keep this as a squared toe breakover, because if you end up blending the quarters in, what you're going to do is you're going to have the pressure back out on the toe. So you want to have it almost look like a reverse shoe. You want to have a good strong wall here and a good strong wall there. And you don't want to go too high up on the hoof wall, because you're going to lose the integrity there. And then typically what I like to do there is to make sure that you've got good quarters, so you want to kind of start to address the quarter issue. And then the heel issue is another thing. If I'm going to kind of rocker the toe here, I typically rocker the heels there also. So that what I want to do is basically, instead of having the foot kind of shaped this way, where I have a lot of the pressure on the toe and the heel, what I'm actually wanting to do is the reverse of it. So I want to kind of, not a banana shoe per se, but have it so that we've got now the hoof will be kind of like this thing, so that we've got a bit of a rocker toe here, a rocker heel in the back, so that we're taking the pressure off. So instead of it being concaved like this, it's actually going to be a little bit
slightly
convexed. By doing that, what we're doing is removing a little bit of the wall here, a little bit of the heel. Pete Ramey's wedge cut works extremely well, and that's just going to fill in everything else. But people that go too aggressive in pushing it all back and taking all the toe off, you don't need to. You only need to take away the mechanics, so it's creating the toe crack, and that usually works. Now the irony of it is, if you have the exact opposite, where instead of having the club foot, you have the long toe low heel with the toe crack there, you basically got kind of the same thing going on. You've got too much leverage. So what you want to do is take the leverage away, rocker the heels a little bit, add the support to the quarters, and that whole thing will just fill in really well. But I think that what we really want to do is, there's a lot more space. When you look at it this way, if you've got weight here and weight here, because you have concaved this, you've got a lot of weight in a little area, a lot of weight in a little area. My suggestion is kind of going the opposite to an extreme in that picture. Now what I'm doing is I'm amortizing the weight over a much greater area. So I'm reducing the pounds per square inch, letting this foot start to grow distally. Once we start to get some distal growth, then we can start working on the heels.
So you're just basically, if you set this on a flat surface, you'd see a little tiny bit of space at the toe and just a little tiny space at the heel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you can use a credit card. What I do is, what we've done before, is you can put a little bit of, find that your credit card goes under here a little bit and goes under there, but you want a nice solid base.
Sure. You want as much foot on the ground always as possible.
Always. And it's basic physics. The more foot you have on the ground, the less pounds per square inch.
And here, there's a lot of horses, they just do not want quarters. No. So don't worry about that part?
No, I think that they don't want quarters because you're not stimulating quarter growth.
So I want to leave the quarters a shad longer than...
I'm a big fan, but you're going to have to connect them, because what we have here is, if we take thin quarters, when it's real thin in the quarters here, thin the quarters here. What we typically have is we have an abundance of heel. So you got your bars coming in, and then you've got all this heel in the back here. You got a tremendous amount of heel, typically with kind of some hooks coming in. So you got this typical, and bruising. You got everything in there that you don't want. You got the same thing here. You got a tremendous amount of heel. You got these hooks that come in with bruising, and you've got very, very, very thin quarters. And you typically will have a very long toe. Now, what's interesting is underneath all this is a good foot. You just got to find it. And typically, how are you going to find that is you take away everything that you don't like. Like with this bar, this abundance of bar, abundance of heel growth, a lot too much heel and thin in the quarter here, and then in the quarters here. What you're going to end up doing is taking this off, thinning out this, thinning out this, taking a little bit out here. Now look what's happening. Right before us, we're getting a better foot. Now with this thinner, what we're going to do is add support here, because one of the problems that we have, just keep in mind that keep in mind that as this starts to fill in, keep in mind that the quarters here, these real thin quarters, have one huge detrimental effect, and that is that it's allowing this foot to continue to expand out this way, because we don't have the integrity of the sole and the toe. So what we need to do is add supplemental support, add the cast. So now the cast is going to help support the sole that's not doing its job, because you got this laminar tearing out here and you got these real thin quarters. By adding support in here, you're going to add more support to the quarters. As the quarters grow down distally, it's going to start to take a lot of the pressure off the heels, and the heels will be allowed to go down distally as well. But that is, I think the biggest problem is that these feet are just allowed to continue to migrate out medial-laterally, and that's what's going to end up causing the hoof to sink. So as you look at it from the side, on a long toe, low heel horse, what happens is these quarters get weaker and weaker because they're going further and further from the abaxial line, from the center of the hoof. It's going out thinner and thinner. As it does, it pulls out these walls. And as a shoer, you know, oftentimes you'll have the white line here, but you can run a nail. Now, I don't recommend it, but this has deformed so much that the sole and the wall, you got the wall coming down like this, and then the sole has migrated, and it's kind of pulled it out distally. And as it pulled it out distally, this has now flattened out, so what we're having is something like this. And now the white line actually is getting back here because this is just flared out.
Right.
And that's what we got to worry about, is that in this case you've got the white line is running here, and in this case it's running here, because you've lost the integrity of the sole. And I think that the sole is critically important, especially in laminated horses. That's an example of it, where in a lot of these laminated horses, on both sides, you've got a wall that's here and a wall that's here. Whoops. A wall that's there. And you've got a poor little coffin bone that's sitting kind of in there like this, but all that is just torque, and it's pulling, and as it continues to stretch away, you're getting less and less and less hoof and lamina connection to the coffin bone, because this is starting to tear away more and more and more. So it's just putting more and more stress on it. So the only way that you can really address that is to take that off on both sides. And now you've taken away the mechanics, but you've lost the support. Adding a cast of that, you've lost the mechanics of pulling it apart, but you've got the support that you need. All right, that's it.